Hello guys, welcome back to ArxangelRC. Before I go on topic, I would like to sidetrack for a minute so I can rant about what happened with my Ranger G2 while testing a new Volantex stabilizer unit. They sent me this radio and stabilizer combo to put on the Ranger G2 and test them in flight, which is what I did. But before even getting the plane airborne, the stabilizer managed to bust its nose, which kinda ruined it for me, and I decided not to go ahead with the autopilot installing this one. The problem came from the fact that the stabilizer unit I had seemed to have a mind of its own, and it would do all sorts of crazy things on its own. It managed to reverse the ailerons just before flight, which caused the two failed takeoff attempts. Then in the no stabilization mode, I actually have severely reduced control surface travel for some reason, which ruined the third takeoff attempt. And then in flight, the rudder just does whatever it likes and doesn't really care about what you want or how the plane should behave. Add to that the fact that there were these oscillations on both pitch and roll axes, which were clearly visible, and I was left with a really bad taste in my mouth. When I confronted Volantex about this, they claim they've already sold thousands of these and have not had a single issue with them, so I'm assuming my unit must be faulty. Good news is they also promised to send me a replacement fuselage for the G2 along with the Ranger 2400, so I will at least be able to restore the G2 to a pristine condition before moving on with the autopilot install. Sorry to have sidetracked like this, but this was really weighing on me and I had to get it out of my system. At this time I have no idea where this new stabilizer is being sold, but personally I'm not sure I would use it, and also would like not to be sent such cheap and basic stuff for testing in the future. It really is pointless for me anyway. Right, so let's get back on track. Last weekend, along with the Ranger G2, I also managed to get some nice aerial shots of the Phoenix, and it sure does look amazing in the air. I did a new endurance run, this time with the throttle a bit lower than before, and tried to hunt for those thermals that were present that day, as you might already know if you've watched my last Ranger G2 video. I just dropped the flaps and flew around, and you could tell pretty easy where there was a thermal because the plane would shoot up like crazy. I guess the dynamic weather that day helped a lot. Of course, I tried not to let it go too high because I wanted to be able to still see it so as not to lose it, but it was a fun flight for sure. Now, since the motor was running most of the time, the flight didn't last too long, but even the 36 minutes I got out of it were pretty impressive in my opinion, and if I did have some FPV gear on it and some indication of the altitude, I could have taken it quite high and would have definitely made a better use of those thermals, which would have increased the flight time a lot, as I wouldn't have needed the motor all that much. After that flight, I gave the topic of FPV a lot of thought and considered installing a lightweight FPV setup along with an FSky telemetry receiver and some of their smart port sensors like a voltage sensor, a Vario and a GPS one, so I can move around and not get lost, perhaps even trying to use thermals to get me as close as possible to some clouds, you know, simple things like that. But then I started thinking about the weight of all of these components and that I could actually replace all of that with a micro APM controller and one of the micro GPS units, and I could use one of the FSky R series receivers for pretty much unlimited range on this plane, no matter of the antenna orientation. And I'm saying this because this one would hardly get over 10 kilometers away on purpose, and the R receivers have a few times that range. Yes, it might end up a few grams heavier than just with the FSky sensors, but it will have return to home capability, and in my experience the micro APM is one of the most reliable versions of the APM controller that I've seen, and it is good enough for planes, so I have no problem using it on a project like this. Might also find a new spot for the battery so I can add some weight up front like an HD recording camera and perhaps a larger prop, as was suggested to me, to get even higher efficiency when the motor is on. Volantex do have an 850 kV version of the motor they have put in the Phoenix, and I'm going to try to get my hands on one of those, and I think it should be able to take on a larger prop on 4S, especially if I use it wisely and try to gain altitude mostly by hunting for those thermals. Essentially, I've made a decision to stop dicking around with these cheap stabilizers of dubious usefulness or too many endurance runs flown manually, and to really get back in the serious FPV game. With a bit of luck, by the end of the week the new MyFly Dream Crosswind will be on its way to me, so as soon as I've had time to put it together and equip it with an autopilot, you will get a review, and sometime next month I will kick off the Twin Tractor Long Range FPV Planes month for about 40 to 45 days, as it might coincide with my planned 10-day vacation, in which time I will be flying only these large twin-motor planes and will try my best to only be posting about them. These will include, as already mentioned, the new MyFly Dream Crosswind, the MyFly Dream Nimbus, the XUAV Clouds and the Believer. Now, I know the Clouds 2 is in the works and very close to being released, but I can't really wait for that at this time because they've already pushed the deadline back a few times and there is no telling how much longer it will take. As soon as the Crosswind is in my hands, Long Range Twins month is a go. Now, links for the stuff shown or used in this video can be found in the description below, and using any of them to buy literally anything from those websites would help support this channel, and henceforth you will have my sincere and eternal gratitude, as that helps support my family as well. Another way you can support me is Patreon. The link for that is also there. If you have enjoyed this video and found it useful, please feel free to like, share and subscribe if you haven't already, and also consider following me on Facebook for more regular updates. I wish you happy flying, and until next time.